अखण्डमण्डलाकारं व्याप्तं येन चराचरं तत्पदं दर्शितं येन तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः। So I'm very thankful to Kiranji and the organizers for inviting me to this retreat. And the moment I stepped into this beautiful place, it's been an overwhelming, transforming experience. I must say that this place is like what Ayurveda calls the transformation of Prakriti into the Kshetra, which will enable the emancipation and evolution of the Kshetratnya. So today I would like to share some thoughts and insights about Ayurveda, which is not just a medical system. As the word indicates, it is the insight into life itself, Ayurveda. There are many medical systems in the world, and if you look at their name, they are all known by the region where it developed. We have traditional Chinese medicine, traditional European medicine, even modern medicine we call it as many times Western medicine. But it is a point to be noted that Ayurveda was never called by the region where it developed, not only in ancient times but also even today. It is still not called as traditional Indian medicine. It has somehow retained the original word Ayurveda. Because Ayurveda is about life not just as it exists in India, but in the whole universe. This is true of Sanskrit also. Now, Sanskrit language, the word Sanskrit, almost all other languages, there are some exceptions of course, are known by the people or the place where it is spoken. You have English, England, German, Germany, Tamil, Tamil Nadu, but when you think about Sanskrit, it is Samskritam. It is a refined speech. It is both Sanskrit language and Ayurveda represents a universal aspiration of refinement, of perfection. And today I want to talk about how Ayurveda can bring about, a transformation, a paradigm shift in global healthcare, which is so essential for the survival and the future of humankind. So, I did bring a presentation, but after seeing the atmosphere here, I felt it is better to talk, though I may just make use of my slides to make sure that we finish in time and I don't miss the essential points. It's always so much more engaging to see each other face to face and connect to each other. Nowadays, the PowerPoint presentations, our attention is on the screen and there is no real communication. So the first is this concept of integral health, which is so central to Ayurveda, of connecting, the different dimensions of our own existence, of our own being, the physical, the vital, the mental, and the psychic. This is very central to Ayurveda. So, Ayurveda is the knowledge of life as it is defined, and it deals with not just human life, but with all forms of life. So we have Vriksha Ayurveda, the Ayurveda of plants, Pashu Ayurveda, the Ayurveda of animals. So Ayurveda has embraced life in totality. And the definition of Ayurveda is given in many ways, one of which is the process through which life discovers itself. That's one way we can define Ayurveda. Anena Purusho Yasmad Ayurvindati Vetticha. Not only discover ourselves, our life, but also attain the highest fulfillment of life. And that is why I say Ayurveda is much more than a medical system. Today modern medicine has made mind-boggling advancements in terms of technology, in terms of knowledge, in terms of all the tools that we have. But we have also reached a point, a paradoxical point, where all this development is not enabling us to eliminate sickness, but we are reaching a point where we are only changing one form of sickness into another. 70% of the global healthcare burden is related to non-communicable diseases. 4 major diseases. Heart disease is the number one killer. Accounts for the number one cause of mortality worldwide. There was an allopathic doctor in India, he's active. So he became disillusioned with modern cardiological care because he said that in the short term it looks like medicine is very life-saving, but in the long run the mortality rate from cardiovascular disease is only increasing. It is not decreasing in spite of the bypass surgeries, in spite of angioplasty, in spite of all the emergency care that we are able to give. We are not able to make an impact on the overall mortality. And he has now started a chain of 330 Ayurvedic clinics across the country. He's an allopathic doctor, employing Ayurveda physicians and bringing this concept of preventive cardiology. So heart disease is a major killer. And this is very much related to the way we live our lives. That is only cause. These are all modifiable risk factors. The second leading cause of death worldwide is cancer. Although cancer is a genetic disease in the sense that cells mutate and grow uncontrollably, cancer is caused, 95% of cancers are due to environmental factors, not due to random mutations. The bad lifestyle, bad diet that we follow, they trigger the development of cancer cells. So cancer is also a preventable disease. Now I would like to ask this august audience, in your opinion, what is the third leading cause of death? Diabetes? Blood pressure is heart disease. Diabetes is definitely one of the major lung problem. Diabetes and lung problems are all major causes. But the third leading cause for death, according to statistics released from the United States, no, it's a doctor. The third leading cause of death is medical error, unnecessary medications. In fact, there are studies which have shown that when doctors went on strike, death rates came down by up to 30 to 50%. So this is not to belittle modern medicine. This is, we are becoming dependent on external supports. What medicine has developed, and definitely these developments are necessary, but we are misusing and abusing the tools that we create. What is the reason for that? Lack of inner development and transformation. We live at the level of the body, and more we are getting dependent on external tools and supports. And what Ayurveda tells us is that we need to move. Exactly the theme of this retreat is discover ourselves and become masters of ourselves. Masters of our own health. That is the only way we can move forward. I don't know if you are aware that today, now we are moving. Global warming, we have been hearing for quite a long time. It's not warming anymore. As the scientists, climate scientists declared very recently, July this year has been the hottest month ever recorded. And we have moved from global warming to global boiling. Actually, in my opinion, it's gone beyond that. I just saw a map of the places on the globe where there are forest fires. And if you look at that, it is global burning. And why I'm saying this is we do not know. We think that the more medical hospitals we create, the more medical facilities we create, the more secure and safe our health will be. But I don't know how many of you are aware that these statistics are again from the US. American healthcare services contribute to about 8.5%, of greenhouse emissions. So the more you create the healthcare infrastructure, the more you are contributing to, climate change. Just 1 hour of administering an anesthetic is equal to driving a gasoline-powered car for 250 miles. This is the global burden of medical care. At least an increase in 58% of the known infectious diseases are due to climate change. So if you really look at the future, it's quite frightening and scary. Unless we take control of our own lives, unless we take control of our own health, the future of healthcare is, in spite of all the technological and other developments, we are on a path of self-destruction. And this is where systems of medicine like Ayurveda is not against modern medicine. Ayurveda gives us an overall integral view of healthcare where everything has its place, but everything is used appropriately. And the responsibility of the health is with the individual. Ayurveda, this is exactly the way. See, right now our body is a vehicle according to Ayurveda, and life is a journey. And now we are just helpless passengers in the vehicle of our body. And what Ayurveda tells us is that instead of being the passenger, become the driver of your own life. This is the message that Ayurveda gives. So, how does Ayurveda become a process of self-discovery? And I find this very striking, the teaching of Aurobindo, the various levels of, human nature, and how we have to gradually evolve and unfold our inner potential. This is exactly the method of self-discovery. So Ayurveda says, Ayurveda is like a mirror where you first see yourself. You cannot begin your life without knowing who you are. In a relative sense, an absolute understanding of who you are happens in due course. But Ayurveda says as an embodied being, we need to have a certain self-recognition. And this is the Ayurvedic concept of Prakriti, our constitution. How we understand ourselves as a multi-dimensional being. Why am I who I am? This is very important to know. And Ayurveda says this journey of health begins with self-love. If you do not understand yourself, you cannot love yourself. If you cannot love yourself, you cannot live your life to full, and you cannot love others. So what does Ayurveda tell us? Ayurveda gives you multiple models of the human, entity. Today we have a one-dimensional understanding. We are just the body. So Ayurveda is slowly giving you, unfolding this higher nature. It doesn't want to tell all of a sudden that you have multiple dimensions. So the first thing it tells you is that your body is just the sthula part. There is something called sukshma. So first Ayurveda introduces to you a two-dimensional view of yourself. You survive your body. The body is perishable. See, in ancient India, there was not a big debate in my understanding after my deep study of Ayurvedic literature, at least in the context of Ayurveda. There was no debate about whether God existed or not. They were least bothered. The whole debate was whether I exist or not. Because if I don't exist after my death, it doesn't matter whether God exists or not. Is it not? So the whole debate, so it is, our darshanas are wrongly translated as theistic and atheistic. Astika darshana is not a theistic darshana. Nastika is not atheistic. What is their main debate is whether we survive our physical body or not. So the schools which believed that we have an existence beyond our physical body, asti paraloka iti, yesha mati sa astika. Astika doesn't mean that those who believe in God are astikas, those who don't believe in God are nastikas. In fact, the concept of God is also only a conceptual tool. When we understand what it is, that concept that disappears. It becomes pure, undivided consciousness. And we realize that that I who exists is one, with the supreme consciousness in that ultimate, moment of realization. So the first step that Ayurveda does when you learn Ayurveda or start understanding Ayurveda is to get this knowledge about yourself as something that goes beyond your physical body. This is the two-dimensional view. And then Ayurveda tells us that what is beyond, you need to bring more granularity into it. It's not just something subtle, something ill-defined. We need to understand what it is. And then Ayurveda introduces a three-dimensional view of the human being. Sattvam Atma Shariram Cha Trayameta Tridandavat. We are, a triangulated entity of the body, mind, and the self. I don't use the word spirit. I like to use the word self for Atman, because when you use the word self, your thoughts are directed inside. When I use the word spirit, it could be alcohol, or it could be, something which is moving around in a white cloth. But when you say self, it's something which is inward. And this is what Ayurveda wants us to do, is to turn our attention from the outer to the inner. A slow process and facility. It's a slow and transformational journey. So it has to happen in phases. And that is the technology and the technique that Ayurveda offers. Ayurveda is also known as the fifth Veda because of this reason. So it is a pity if Ayurveda is reduced to a medical system. Because Ayurveda is a healing system to heal ourselves. Healing means to make whole again. So we are broken inside, outside, and the goal of Ayurveda is to make us whole again. And for that, even medical treatment is necessary. But that's not the primary attention of Ayurveda. Today, this is the biggest misunderstanding that has happened, that Ayurveda is another medical system. I don't think Ayurveda can compete with modern medicine as a medical system. Medicine has developed so much today. Of course, Ayurveda has very powerful treatments also. But what I'm saying is that's not what Ayurveda is worth for. Ayurveda is worth because it is a healing system. It makes you whole. According to Ayurveda, Arogya means infinite happiness. Sukha samjnakam arogyam. If you are happy for no reason, only then you are healthy. Today, we need a reason to be happy. If you are happy for a reason, then you are sick. Because you don't need a reason to be happy, because your existence itself is happiness. If you unite with your own existence, then you will get that infinite happiness, which is completely fulfilling. When you don't feel any want inside, when you feel completely fulfilled. This is how Ayurveda defines health. In fact, the Ayurvedic definition of health is called swasthyam. Swastha. So the WHO has come up with a definition of health is not merely an absence of infirmity or disease, but a complete state of mental, physical. And actually this will make people very miserable because they don't know how to reach that. It's not helpful to give a definition of health and not be able to achieve it because it makes you feel inadequate. So we need a technology, we need a technique, we need a method to be able to realize that. And Ayurvedic definition of swasthya dates many, many centuries before the WHO definition. So, samadosha samagnischa samadhatu malakriyaha prasanna atmendriya manaha swastha ityabhidhiyate. Swastha means swasmin sthiyate iti swastha. A person who is, inside, resting in his own inner being. That is what the word swastha means. So, in fact, Ayurveda also has a term for the other kind of health that we understand today as absence of disease. We have a word in Ayurveda also, arogyam. Arogyam means arogata. The absence of a disease is arogyam. So again you can see that Ayurveda is giving you a methodology, giving you all the map you have to travel to reach the final destination of life. Where health is becoming synonymous with spiritual awakening and spiritual fulfillment. Ayurveda says that treatment is of two types. The laukiki chikitsa, which is treating disease again and again. It's a never-ending process. Because you may cure one disease today, tomorrow you will get another disease. Again you have to treat it. And many a time when you treat one disease, you get many other new diseases also as a bonus, as part of the treatment. So this is a never-ending process. So healing according to Ayurveda, which happens at a spiritual level, is called as Naishtiki Chikitsa. So there is Laukiki Chikitsa and Naishtiki Chikitsa. The real goal, therefore, is this self-development and self-evolution. And this is so beautifully explained in a short phrase called Ayura Arogya Saukhyam, where all three essential, it's a three-component framework which should guide the development of a complete healthcare system. What is it that we need? Ayu, Arogya and Saukhyam. The first is Ayus. We need our life to be protected. If our life is always in a threatened situation, we cannot move forward. And this is where medical systems have a role to play. When you have an emergency, you need to have all the measures to make sure that life doesn't slip away. But once your life is preserved, in fact, we are going to a society where more and more, I am very much disturbed to see like any drive across the highway where I live, you have to give way for ambulances every other minute. I am not exaggerating. You hear the siren of ambulances every now and then. We are going to a situation where we are creating more and more life-threatening situations. And we are surviving on ambulances and ICUs and medical interventions. If situations continue like this, the number of life-saving interventions that we will need to do in society will be mind-boggling. The projections, the economic burden of such a situation is unimaginable. We will never be able to cater to the needs of the whole society. From Ayurvedic perspective, it is the loss of harmony with ourselves and nature that even creates a life-threatening situation. If we are creating more and more life-threatening situations, so one way medical system is developing is by creating the tools and techniques to save life, what come may. But we have to understand that while these are very dramatic and very successful in individual cases, when we look at the whole population and we look at it across a period of time, these are not sufficient. And the purpose of life is not just to be saved from a life-threatening situation. We need to evolve, we need to go. We need to evolve to a state where we are not tackling with disease. This is called as Arogyam. So from Ayush to Arogyam. And once we achieve that Arogyam, we have to reach a place where, we are undergoing that inner transformation to attain a higher level of health and wellness. Today, even the modern happiness index, on which the happiness is measured, has a lot of deficits. I mean, it's not a complete way to measure happiness, because in all the Western countries which come up, especially the Scandinavian countries which come up high on the happiness index, it's because all the material conditions are fulfilled, and that's the way happiness is defined. In Ayurveda, happiness is defined as an internal state, not dependent on external conditions. When you are able to be happy in spite of the external condition, sampad vipad sveka manaha, that is the state of happiness or health. It's a state where we are able to cope with any situation in life. So, I like to focus my discussion on these two themes: how Ayurveda gives us the opportunity for self-discovery and self-mastery. This is what I would like to focus on. So coming back to self-discovery, I just mentioned that Ayurveda tells us that that we have a existence beyond our physical body, and that is the Sukshma Sharira, which if we again, magnify, then we see that there is a distinction between the mind and the self. So we are a trinity. And then we have to still even go further. But before that, Ayurveda also tells us that the mind is part of your body. It's not a separate thing. The body-mind creates one continuum. What affects the body affects the mind. What affects the mind affects the body. And if you want to gain control over your body, you must gain control over your mind. According to Ayurveda, all diseases are psychosomatic. Now, increasingly, this is being understood by modern medicine. Even the placebo effect, which is looked down upon as something not desirable, actually is the seed of all healing. According to Ayurveda, what is wrong with the placebo effect? If it can heal, it means that your mind can heal you without any medicine. And today, medical science is trying to kill the placebo effect and make you dependent on medicines. I was once at a conference in the US on integrative medicine, and a very famous psychiatrist was speaking. He was telling that we need to consider the placebo also as a medicine, for many reasons. One is, of course, it doesn't cost a dime. And the second is, you don't have to worry about side effects, but it's not fully true. I'll come to that. Third reason he said was that it's the most studied intervention in the world. There is no other intervention that has been as much studied as the placebo, because almost every other clinical trial has a placebo also being tested against the real medicine. And then he gave a very shocking revelation by saying that majority of the times the placebo has proven to be better than the real medicine. And the placebo we can construct a placebo in many ways. It's almost like the Ishta Devata of the religious context. How you make it makes it more powerful. For example, if you use a blue placebo, it's good for sleep. If you make a red placebo, it works better as a painkiller. If you increase the dosage of a placebo on the label, it works better. If you make it more pricey, if you make it very costly, it works even better. But the most interesting thing that was discovered was that even if you tell it's a placebo, it works. So this is the power of the human mind. I was just reading a book. Now this is about making a placebo outside you, using some tool or symbol as a placebo. But now the concept is that you are the placebo. If why do you need a pill to create that belief? If you can give a strong, this was how old Vedic medicine was. Today people are wrongly telling that Ayurveda is an evolution of Vedic medicine into something more rational. In Atharva Veda, there was only a sankalpa. In Atharva Veda, healing was only a sankalpa. That the healer will tell the patient that, may you get healed. And the receiver will take that sankalpa with complete faith, and then he would get healed. So because we lost that faith, it's a fall of that faith. It is a fall from that intuitive, deeper consciousness, which Sri Aurobindo has also talks about, the shift from the Vedic to the later period, where we move from that intuitive consciousness to a more intellectual consciousness. And that is when medicine, then we start functioning intellectually, creating. This Ayurveda calls this as Yukti Vyapashraya Chikitsa. Yukti Vipashraya is where we are dependent on intellect and calculations. It is a lack of faith in ourselves. The Ayurvedic texts clearly say that Manasaha Arthanukulyadhi Tushtirurja Balode. How the placebo works. It doesn't heal a disease, but it creates the circumstances for the body to heal. And this belief in oneself, this belief in that we can become whole again, as the nursery, stories tell, Humpty Dumpty sat on a wall and Humpty Dumpty had a great fall. And all the king's men could not put Humpty Dumpty back again. That is our situation today. We sit on the wall of material life and we fall and we are broken. And that brokenness, no medical system is able to heal again. And this is what Ayurveda calls as healing, putting us back again as one whole. So a placebo effect, according to Ayurveda, healing begins with the mind. That's why taptajya ghadayo riva. If you put hot ghee into an iron vessel, the vessel will get heated. If you heat a vessel which holds ghee, the ghee will get heated. This is how the body and mind is. I don't know if you are aware that one thought is enough to completely change the way your immune system functions. Completely change the way your endocrine system functions. Completely change the way your nervous system functions. Your thought and mind and the body, they are constantly calibrating themselves against each other. When your body state changes, the mind calibrates itself accordingly. When the mind changes, the body calibrates it accordingly. So Ayurveda says that if you want to embark on this journey of self-transformation, you must hold your body and mind together as if they were one. And then calibrate them so that your body reflects your mind and your mind reflects your body in a positive way. Without that, you cannot discover, the higher realms of your existence. You cannot go into a higher journey. I don't know if you have heard of neurochemicals of happiness. We have all the drugs that we need. The body is the most illegal drug peddler in the whole world. Our own bodies, no person can come and, penalize us for self-drugging ourselves, only if we knew how to do it. All yogis, in my opinion, are drug peddlers. The only thing is they know how to do it within themselves. We have all the neurochemicals that we need to keep us happy and blissful. And one of which is associated with Sri Aurobindo. A scientist in Israel discovered that many scientists discovered at one point that our body has receptors for endocannabinoids. Endocannabinoids are kind of psychedelic substances. So they were surprised. Why does the body have these receptors? Is it because humans were addicted to these cannabis earlier? No, that couldn't be true. So then they hypothesized that it means the body is producing its own cannabinoids. But nobody had discovered these chemicals. Nobody knew that the body produced these chemicals using which it would take itself into a high state. So this scientist from Israel, he came to Sri Aurobindo's ashram in Pondicherry and he spent some time there. And he had an intuition. He had the feeling that he would be the person who will discover this molecule. And in that moment of inspiration, this is perhaps the only chemical molecule in the world which is known by a Sanskrit name. All other chemicals have Latin names or very difficult other, This chemical he called as Anandamide. Inspiration from Sri Aurobindo, being in the presence of Sri Aurobindo's ashram, he named it as Anandamide. Even today that molecule is known, it's an amide, but instead of using a usual chemical nomenclature, he called it Anandamide before it was discovered. He was so confident being in Aurobindo ashram that he would be the person who will discover it. So it's some divine, inspiration that happened. And it so happened, there were many other scientists in this running race, but it so happened that he was himself the person who discovered it. And it is true, our body. See, if you just run in the morning for a few minutes or hours, your body produces enough Anandamide. So your lifestyle is linked to how your body functions, how it calibrates your mind. This is why Ayurveda says, Parishramo mitaharo bhugada vashvina viva tavanadritya neivaham vaidyamanyam samashraya. Let's keep the vaidya away. This was I don't know if you know that in very old days, vaidyas were paid only if patients were healthy, not if patients were sick. I was once in a meeting on cancer, and it's a cancer business group. And they were saying, cancer is the next big opportunity. I was completely shattered. Can you just imagine a person, a family where there is a cancer diagnosis, their life just turns upside down. At least cancer should be a disease where we should practice compassion. To consider cancer as a business opportunity, I think, is the depths of human degradation. So, I just lost. What was I? Just before that. Anandamide. Sorry. I got a bit overwhelmed when I talked about cancer, and I still remember there was another thing that happened. I am not an active independent practitioner for one reason. After I studied Ayurveda and I set up my own clinic, and when I was sitting there, I just started worrying. Will patients come? What will happen if patients don't come? And I started spontaneously praying, I should have a good clinic and a roaring medical practice. So may patients come. And then suddenly I realized, what is going on in my mind? We were taught when we were students of Ayurveda that we should pray, Sarve bhavantu sukhina. Sarve santu niramaya. Let everybody be happy. Let nobody be deceased. Loka samasta sukhino bhavantu. And here I am praying that let sick people come to me. I can tell you this was a moment of self-discovery. I stopped my clinic. I said, I am not going to do clinical practice. And that is when I explored and found that in China and India, there was a system where doctors didn't have to depend on patients to make a living. Their basic needs were taken care of. I have personally, in Kerala, we had our tradition survived for a long time. So right up to modern times, we had traditions still surviving, and some of those old doctors were still doing treatment in the traditional way. They had enough land, they would be doing their agriculture, and then people would keep on coming, giving them some gifts just out of courtesy, and they would not receive it unless it is given with real love and intention. They don't ask for any money. Anybody becomes sick, they are available, they will treat without charging anything. In fact, snake bites, I have personally witnessed snake bite cases being healed. The whole courtyard of the physician would become the ICU. And the whole neighbors, they were all trained. They would come, they will come with the right herbs. I have made videos of all these just to see how, in a people-friendly way, medical care was administered, in those days. That concept itself is. So here you have in ICU, patients dying. Sometimes you are kept inside just to increase the bill. I mean, it really happens. Patients are not let out of the ICU. When dead people are kept inside, to blow up the bills. And people die without, being near their dear and near ones. What can be more tragic than this? So here, the patient is lying on the lap of their own relative while the treatment is being administered. And the kind of assurance and love that your family member can give when a intense medical procedure is happening is extremely invaluable. I lost my father-in-law because he was isolated in an ICU. He died of grief and cardiac arrests because nobody was allowed inside. He was a weak person. The doctor couldn't understand what is the psychological background of that individual. So there are so many such neurochemicals of happiness. What happens when we do yoga? Another chemical increases in your body by up to 30%. It depends on how efficiently you do. You could increase it even more. This is called GABA, or it's the anti-anxiety molecule. So when you practice yoga, you can avoid avaidya, definitely. Vaidyamanyam samashra. I will not go to avaidya. That is what that Sanskrit verse which I quoted just now said. Because I know how to avoid avaidya. Not by eating apples. By being physically active and, by taking the right diet. See, Ayurveda has told when it comes to diet that food should be tasty. That is primary. But if we think only of that, which is what today is happening, we have the food industry. Food has become an industry. It was not like that in our culture. Food was always shared. Food was one thing. Water was one thing which we gave, distributed freely. Annadhanam was considered as a very big, punya, a merit. Because food is the right. Water is, today we have to pay for both food and water. And today two things have happened. One is that food industry has come. Food is a business now. And second thing is nutritional science is exploding with more and more. They themselves don't know what is going on. One day we will hear coffee is good. Next day they will say coffee is bad. One day we will say milk is, now they are saying milk is poison. So we are completely confused. And it's very easy for food industry to make use of all this nutritional information and pass misinformation. So food, Ayurveda say, food should be manasaha priyam, because one of the ways food nourishes us is mentally. And food quality affects our mind also. Now the second thing is food should be nutritious. And the third thing is food should be assimilable also. Simply, taking nutritious food doesn't mean it will help you, because you have to be able to digest and assimilate it. A lot of nutritious foods are harmful because they cannot be digested or assimilated by different individuals. That is why we say what is good food for one person is maybe not good for another. because it depends on your digestion. So if you are just looking at how much carbohydrates, proteins and fats or vitamins are there, it may not help you. So this is the biggest challenge. I believe that the food industry should switch over to this. Ayurveda was one of the oldest, and even today I think one of the most scientific approaches to cooking. India had a big cooking tradition. So the real science of cooking is when you make food tasty, nutritious and assimilable. This could be the new buzzword for a new kind of cuisine that the food industry can offer to the world. Our food is all the three. It's a 3-in-1. Your food is complete only if it is 3-in-1. Not just 3-in-1. The fourth one is that who cooks it? Food should be cooked out of love. Because food recreates your body. So what vibration you get from your food is very essential for your inner transformation. So the ancient Ayurvedic method of self-transformation was very detailed. Every single thing, what you eat, how you live your life, Now we have a retreat and all of us are sitting for the whole day. And the new finding is that sitting is the new smoking. You don't need to, so you need actually some movement breaks. Every half an hour, you don't need to break sessions so shall we do that? Shall we just pause for a moment, get up, stretch, and then sit again? This is so important. Yes. There is one exception. If you know yoga and you can sit in a yogasana, then it is okay. The reason is that we need to make sure that our pranic flow is not interrupted. When we sit, the electric movement, the neurological electric impulse, you can feel your parts of your body become numb. Please sit down, sir. Thank you. Why I am saying this is because I've begun to feel guilty of making people sit for long, and then I am myself in office changing. Small things that we can bring into our lives. There was a study which compared sitters and smokers, and they found that sitting is putting at a higher risk of lung cancer than smoking. But it doesn't mean that we are building a case for smoking. Smoking is equally harmful. See, if you can make use of our calf muscles, they are called the peripheral heart. You need to have a lifestyle where your calf muscles are very active. So many other neurochemicals of happiness, like serotonin. Have you heard of serotonin? It is the feel-good hormone or the happiness hormone. And 95% of serotonin is produced in your gut. There is a gut-brain axis. So what Ayurveda, this is all part of the self-discovery process that I'm saying. We understand Ayurveda is like a user's manual. It first tells you who you are, you identify yourself. And then with that fingerprint, you are able to download the user's manual which is specific for you. Please don't read general guidances about Ayurveda. Ayurveda is not for, there are some generalized principles. What a big mistake we are making is seeing some general advices and start applying it in your life. Something may be very harmful. Because your constitutions are different. Our constitutions are different. If I am having a dominance of Vata or a dominance of Pitta or Kapha or a combination, then our requirements, the way our body digests food, certain types of food, everything will be different. So in ancient times, I always wondered, Kerala we have what is called a sadhya. I don't know if you heard, it's a feast. A long plantain leaf will be placed and there will be so many dishes. And in the beginning, I always used to ask when food was served, the serving is very stingy. They will just take a small spoon and put a little. And I used to always object, give me more. And then they will say, second round we will give you more. Why is this? I always wondered. See, this is the way food was customized. You cannot make, when you have a large crowd, you cannot make individualized meals for everyone. So what is done is that everybody is given a sample to taste. And then they have to analyze and decide which ones are suited for them. In the second round, they are given enough food. So, this is how a feast was done. So, everywhere this idea of individualization was brought in. So, eating food, sitting, standing, Ayurveda there was a discussion earlier that, in India we used to wake up and have a bath. That's not what Ayurveda says. What Ayurveda says is the moment you wake up, you must move your bowels. That is also meditation. Because you have to start your new day on a clean slate. And the body's metabolism, whatever happened yesterday. See, our body is a self-balancing, self-transforming, self-cleansing system. This is what the Dosha Dhatu Mala Siddhanta says. So the moment you wake up, and it is designed, the downward movement, the peristalsis of the colon has an impact on your mind. It relaxes your mind. So it's not, and if you visualize that your digestion has happened, all the waste in my system is going away, that also becomes a meditative process. It may sound a bit funny to think that, our excretory process can also be used as an opportunity for meditation, but that's what Ayurveda says. Brahme Muhurta Uttishtet. And that Muhurta is called as Brahma Muhurta. It is the moment for expanding your mind. It's a moment. Brahma Muhurta is a moment when you are active, you can expand your consciousness and your mind. And then the next thing is not bath. Bath is something which we do much, much later according to Ayurveda. There is a gross cleansing of the body that is done. And if you don't move your bowels, you are asked to drink some hot water. There are a lot of myths about drinking bottles and bottles of water. Ayurveda is not the culprit behind this. Ayurveda says always, pibed swasthobi chalpasha. Water should always be drunk sip by sip. As the body loses water, you have to replenish it. So it's good to carry a bottle of water and take little by little, not at one go. It will completely disturb your digestive system. Even when you're eating a meal, you should have little by little, not a lot of water before or after. And then you are supposed to do oiling, exercise, cleansing of the systems. And after you sweat very well, your micro wastes are also removed. And after that only you are supposed to have a bath according to Ayurveda. In Ayurveda, it's not religious. So in Ayurveda, there is no time for praying, no time given for religious. You're taking care of your body because this is the kshetra. Your body is the temple. And by taking care of your body and awakening the self within, you are doing the biggest worship. This is the time is coming to an end. So I'd like to conclude the second part, which I was trying to build up, self-mastery. Ayurveda uses the imagery of the Bhagavad Gita itself, which is from the Kathopanishad. Atmanam rathinam viddhi shariram rathamevatu indriyani hayanyahu mana pragrahamevacha. So Atmanam, you are the charioteer. You are the passenger in the chariot. The chariot is your body. The 5 horses are the sense organs. And the mind is the reins that control. And Buddhi is the Sarathi, the charioteer. When you bring your life into the connection of your own higher intellect, so that is the 4-dimensional view Ayurveda adds, the body, mind and self. To that, the vital is also added, the senses. Then it becomes 4-dimensional. But you gain control over your life only when you add the other essential dimension that links the mind to the higher self, which is Buddhi. Buddhi is not just intellect in the sense that we translate. It's a higher power of discrimination. And when you awaken Buddhi, this is called Prajna in Ayurveda. And all diseases are due to Prajnaparadha, or the failure of your higher intelligence, you get a 5-dimensional view of the human body. And this is how we become masters of ourselves. So to conclude, when I was a student of Ayurveda, that is about 40 years ago, we studied Ayurveda in a forest in a Gurukula system. We were all told about the slogan, health for all by 2080, WHO. I was wondering whether, how can everybody become healthy by 2080? Is there a pill that we can distribute? Is that it's such so simple? And around 2000, what happened? AIDS. The whole world got frightened by that pandemic. WHO became wiser. It started talking about not health for all, universal health coverage or health coverage for all. And then in 2020 came COVID. The countries with the maximum access to healthcare were the most to suffer, like the US, Italy, Europe. We fared much better actually. So the time has come for this Ayurveda slogan. It's not health for all or health coverage for all, it's health intelligence for all. It's by awakening health intelligence that we become masters of our health and masters of our life. And I think this is how Ayurveda invites you. I could only give some snippets here and there. There are a lot of details of the themes that I discussed. Ayurveda is a tool for self-discovery and self-mastery of our own health, of the health of the planet, of the health of the whole universe. Because we believe that there's not just one earth. Aneka kodi brahmanda jananye namaha. The mother goddess is a creator of crores and crores of universes. So let everybody, everywhere, enjoy health through this process of self-mastery. That's Ayurveda for you in a nutshell. Namaste.